I did want to talk to you real quick, just kind of like do it. Oh, it's hot in this room. Is it cold? You're so close to the camera right now. I'm sure you cannot tell because I'm still pale as all get out, but I am a little tan from the beach. Well, also burnt. I'm very burnt. But you can see more freckles. Oh, anyway, I'm excited. Hi everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with Whateverathon. So, as many of you probably know from my TBR, I'm participating in Whateverathon for the month of June, which is a readathon hosted by Maddie over at Book Browsing Blog. I will leave everything linked down below if you'd like to check that out. But the idea of this readathon is just to read whatever you want. So, like, you set your own goals, and as you accomplish that, you earn points for your team. And there are 4 teams that you can choose from. So I'll leave my TBR as well linked down below because a lot of the books that I got in my TBR basket I'll be able to use for like some of the other prompts because there is a tic-tac-toe board. I'll plop it here. My team is beach reader, so this is my board. Now the highlighted ones that are in, I think it's like turquoise or blue or something. Those are like my team specific, but everything else is everybody has those. It's just those 5 that are team specific. If you want like an extra level of oomph on top of your readathon, is like there's extra prompts as well. So as I go through the readathon, I'll be talking about what books I am reading for what prompts, and I'll like constantly show this TBR like tic-tac-toe. Maybe it'll be at the end of each vlog just to show you kind of like where I'm at. But that's kind of the idea, is just to read whatever you want. So I put my goal for this month at 10 books, which I think is pretty attainable. I'm not doing crazy things this month. I am doing a beach week, which I will talk about in a second, but I am going on vacation this month. So like I wanted to set it not crazy high, but something that I thought might be attainable. But I want to come on real quick, just kind of like introduce the, the vlog and everything, talk a little bit about what the first week is going to look like, because all the other weeks are pretty normal except for the first one. So June is weird, like I mentioned, because we're going to vacay. We're going to the beach. I'm very excited. And because of that, I had to like rearrange my vlog schedule. So instead of like weekly vlogs, which would end up being 4, we're going to like combine them into slightly longer vlogs and do 3. But I wanted to make this one a little bit longer just because because we're at the beach, it's going to be harder for me to get this video out, A, and B, because like as far as like the beach trip goes, I don't plan on doing any kind of like these kind of sit down things. I'll probably do like a big one at the end to tell you how my reading went, but obviously I'll take you guys along with me to the beach. But like I'm probably not going to do like a sit down and tell you my thoughts until the end of the beach trip, which would be the end of the vlog. So that's the plan. So let me tell you a little bit about what I'm planning on reading. So I've got a couple that I want to bring with me to the beach. I just have a couple that I think would be very good for like the vacation aspect of it. But let me pull up my like spreadsheet where I have everything kind of like written out, because there are a couple of things tic-tac-toe wise that are random. So I wanted to do that with you really quick. Most of these I can like pick things for myself except for like 2 things. And one of them is a poll. So I did put a poll on Instagram today. So still got like half a day left to go. So I'll put the final tally here, but I put 4 books and I had people help me decide what I'm bringing to the beach. As of right now, which I don't see it changing anytime soon, that was Beach Read by Emily Henry, which was great because I was planning on bringing this one to the beach with me anyway. So this will fill the kind of poll prompt. I don't think it really fits anything else. I mean, it does, but I don't have it slotted to fit anything else. So this is one that I'm bringing with me. Beach Read feels appropriate. It's about 2 authors who go on vacation. They're both stumped in the genre that they write, so they end up writing the other one's genre. So there's a literary fiction one and a romance author. So the literary fiction author writes a romance book. Romance author writes a literary fiction book, and I think it's their relationship, and I believe it deals with grief as well. So really excited about this one. And then the other one that's kind of like you can't really plan it is a color on the cover. So let me go grab my husband's phone really quick. Hold on. Okay, So let me pull up a random color generator. Here we go. I've got it pulled up. Let's see what the color is, if you can see it okay. Ooh, pale brown. Lovely. Okay, let's have a think real quick. Okay. So I am currently bringing over into June, Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I don't have it on me right now, but I read about 48% of that book at the end of last night, which was like the last day of May. So I'm gonna use this because I have the exclusive Fairy Loot Fancy Beautiful edition. So I checked both the UK, like the regular UK, and the US cover. And while the UK doesn't really have anything in it, the US cover does. I'll plop it here. But like near the bottom, there's some of like the leaves at the bottom have some brown in them. Plus some of the gold accents on some of the things gets darker on some spots that lend itself well to that pale brown color. Okay, so I had this whole other thing, but I'm actually going to use this one instead for the color prompt because I really wanted to get this one in this month. I read only a little bit of it before the month. Like I wasn't even quite halfway done when May started, so when May ended, so I'm gonna count it, because again, it is whatever you want it to be. So that's the one I'm actually going to end up using for color on a cover, which is great because I'm hoping to finish that in the next day or so. It kind of depends. I think I've got like 3.5 hours left of the audiobook, and I won't be able to listen a whole lot at work, which is when I usually would be able to plow through that because there's a new employee for us, so like we're training her and like doing all that fun stuff, so I need to like focus on that aspect of it. So I won't be listening too much to it, but my drives I can listen to it. When I'm doing things around the house, I can listen to it, things like that. So I will most likely finish this one before we head to the beach. But I did want to talk about the other book that I want to bring with me. The one that I was going to make work for the color, but I think I really want to use Daughter of the Moon Goddess for something. So I worked my magic to make it fit. But the other one I want to bring to the beach with me is The Holiday by T.M. Logan. This one is a thriller, and it also fits the summer thriller prompt, which is specific to our team, which is not a genre I read a whole lot of. I usually don't, although I don't read thrillers, period. But India, who is one of the hosts of the team, I guess, team leaders, whatever you want to call it. I'll leave her channel down below, but she did an entire video about like specifically summer thriller recommendations because like she reads a lot of those, which was great. I was hoping I would see some recommendations for some of these, and this is one of the ones that she brought up. I have not been able to find it anyway. There's no audiobook for this except for a French version. So this one follows our main character, Kate, who has gone on this vacation to Provence, which I had to look up, I'm not gonna lie, but I think it's in like the bottom of France. And it's her and her husband and 4 best friends and their husbands and children. And so she suspects that her husband has been cheating on her, and then she does discover that he's been cheating on her with someone, like one of these other people who she's like really close friends with. She doesn't know who yet, but she knows it's one of them. So she ends up like deep diving and trying to figure out who it is and like learn about all this stuff. But it says here that like someone is willing to kill to keep the secret, so like it's about to turn deadly, and I'm very curious about how that's going to work. But there's just something about this that very much interests me. So these are the 2 that I'm going to start the month out with. It's the 2 that I'm going to be taking with me to the beach. I'm sure I'll have other things as well, like knowing me, I'll probably bring like 5 books and read maybe one of them. So that's my plan for now. I don't know when I'll talk to you next. Honestly, like I might do an update sometime this weekend. Very unlikely, just because it is Wednesday, but my parents are coming in town on Friday night. We've got some friends that are also it's going to be a full house here. So we've got people coming to stay, and then we leave for the beach on Sunday. And obviously Saturday I'll be like hanging out with my parents and like preparing and stuff like that. So I don't know if I'll ever actually like sit down and talk to you. If I can finish Daughter of the Moon Goddess before Friday or sometime on Friday, then I'll talk to you then about my thoughts on how that went, because that would be my first read, but I'm not sure when I'll talk to you next. This might be just a full-on B-roll video, and then like a very big update at the end. Like, that's what we might turn out to be this week. But I hope you enjoy whatever this video comes out to be. I'm very, very excited to go to the beach. I keep talking about it. I don't know if you can tell. So I'll take you along with me, and I hope that you enjoy this tropical video, whatever it turns out to be, and hopefully it'll transport you to the beach as well. If you are unable to go, here's me taking you with me. Play it on your TV, whatever you need to make it feel like you're there. But yeah, I'll let you know when I have updates. I don't know what those will be, but when I have updates, I'll let you know. it's now Monday. I just got home from work, and I'm going to see if I can wrap up this video really quick, just kind of update you on how my reading went in the past week. As I'm sure you saw in many different clips, I have completed a couple of things. Well, 3 to be exact. I read one thing before we went to the beach, and then I read the 2 books on the beach. And I've technically started another one, but we'll talk about that at the end. But I thought I'd come here and tell you all my thoughts and what each of these books stand for and where we're at tic-tac-toe board wise. I'm also going to see if I can do this wrap up relatively quickly because it's like 90 degrees outside. It's very warm and I'm hot. So we're just gonna wrap through this really quickly. So the first book that I finished was Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and this is by Sue Lynn Tan. I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. This one was for the prompt of color on the cover, which, as I mentioned at the very beginning, is not on this cover, but I got pale brown, and that was on the US cover. This is my Fancy Fairly edition, but I really loved this world. I loved the writing style. I think that how this is magical and how it's based on actual kind of mythology, because it is based on the moon goddess myth, I think in Chinese mythology, Chinese mythology, and it is Legend of Chang's the Moon Goddess. And so this was kind of a, well, why would the moon goddess do what she did in that myth? And so this kind of goes on from that. So we follow our main character. I don't think I told you really anything about it in the beginning of the video, but we follow our main character, Xingyan, and she is Daughter of the Moon Goddess. Due to circumstances, has to end up leaving home, and it follows her leaving home and like starting work as like this noble woman's, I don't even remember what she was called, but it was basically like maid of sorts. Maiden, she like did a lot of like helping her pick out her clothes, keeping her clothes clean, stuff like that. And then from there she moves on to become the companion to the crown prince, as he's learning magic and stuff. And so she kind of like goes along with that, and then it continues on with her life from there. I really adored, like I said, I really loved this magic system. I thought the celestial kingdom, and it kind of like hovered above the mortal world. I found that really interesting. And there was this like cloud magic almost, where like you could, it wasn't really, well, I guess it was kind of magic. It was like you could travel on clouds to get to certain places. And I found that so cool. This also has a kind of like military fantasy aspect to it, especially as she grows up. She's really good at archery, and so like that becomes a huge part of the story. And I found just like the actual training really interesting, which is bizarre because I've never liked that before, and also I don't like war books usually, so the fact that like the training part was interesting. I'm fascinated with this. And the writing was really interesting because like it had this, I didn't call it like poetic or lyrical in its actual writing, but I would call it poetic in like its nature, like the vibe of it, I guess, because like our author, and through that our main character, really sees the world differently, and I think that's really fascinating. And so like the way things are described lends itself very well to that poetic nature, that poetic vibe that I was talking about, but it's not really like, it doesn't have that writing style. I don't know how to explain it, but I really liked this book. The reason it got 4.5 stars instead of 5 stars is, and it kind of hurts me to say this, the romance. I didn't want it in the book. Like, it's a big part. There's kind of like a love triangle of sorts, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it kind of worked in this one. My issue, and I think it was a development issue, is that this book is over such a long period of time. So you have our main characters, and they like hang out, and then like in the course of a chapter 2 years pass. So to the reader it's only been a few pages, but to our characters it's been multiple years. So of course a relationship is going to develop between certain characters over multiple years, but to the reader it's like, well, they just met, that's weird. And so it was less believable because of that, and it was harder to grasp, like, actually, because we never really saw the relationship develop. We just saw like all of a sudden people had feelings for each other, and then we would see things happen, and like I think that's what didn't work for me. It wasn't that she had a romance, because like that's fine. I was back and forth. It really made me think about like what person I wanted her to be with, because usually when you get into a love triangle, you're like, oh, I know for a fact who she's gonna end up with, and I was over here like, I don't actually know. And it made me love both of the guys individually at different points, and then hate them at different points. It was really interesting. But like, I just think that like she needed something else to make that time jump easier. It was kind of like a montage of stuff, but montages don't really work in books, so that was bizarre. But beyond that, I loved it. I thought the ending was just beautiful. It has an ending that wraps up in a way that like lends itself to a second book, which there is going to be one. It is a duology. But also, if you were done with the story, you can be done after the first one. So I'm excited to see the second one when it comes out. I very much enjoyed it. So I finished that one. I don't remember. I didn't write the date down like a dummy. So probably Thursday or Friday before we left. I don't really remember. And then I took with me to the beach everything that I thought I was going to. And then at the very last second, I put in a Dance with the Fae Prince. And so I ended up reading both of these when I was at the beach. I started with Beach Read first, and I loved this one. I gave it 5 stars. I read it mostly on the beach. Now, the first day that we were there, it did kind of rain, so we didn't go to the beach on the very first day, but the second day we did. So I started this one technically in the little like house that we were renting, but it was fun because like, you know, my husband's really into puzzles, and so like he'll go back and forth from reading and doing puzzles, and we are a family of gamers in the sense of like board games and stuff. So like we did like games like that, and so it was really nice that I could like zone in and out and read, and then also like be part of like what was going on. All of that to say, I started this one in the cabin and finished it on the beach, and it was so good. Like I was hooked within like probably the first chapter or so, and I did not expect a lot of what happened, because like you're given very little information about the plot and why our main characters, at least our main female character, why she's at the beach. And it's not even like the beach, like they're at a lake. It's not like an ocean house. It's like they both have lake houses next to each other that happen to be on a beach. So like there is some sand, but it's at a lake, not like the ocean or anything like that, which was a misunderstanding from me, but I'm not sure it says it on the back. But we follow our main characters, Augustus or Gus, and our main female character, January. I'm not going to spoil anything because like you find out in the first chapter kind of why she was on this beach, or why she's at this house and where this house came from, but I don't want to say anything because like that was a huge thing with me, and there's so much more to this plot on the like grief aspect of it that I ever anticipated. Yes, there's romance. Do not get me wrong. There is for sure romance in this book, and like it does have all the aspects of a romance that I love, but it does focus more on January and like healing that she has to do, that is kind of wrapped up in anger and grief and some family things that she's learning throughout this book. So I thought it was, I don't even know how to say this because like I don't want to spoil anything about this book, but I loved the characters. I felt like Gus and January really clicked, and like their banter moments were so great. Anytime they had a conversation with each other, I just loved them to death. I just wanted them to keep talking. On a spice scale, I would say out of 5, this is close to a 3, because it does have its moments, but like that's obviously not the main point of it. But just I might start doing that spice scale. That's actually very clever. So spice, pretty moderate, has its scenes, but it's really just these two authors, and I loved the process of watching these two people because they agree to write the opposite author's genre. I kind of talked about this book at the beginning of this video, and many times, I'm sure many people have heard about what this book is about, but it's the two of them as they write the opposite genre, and both of them are kind of stuck right now. So in part of their deal of like writing each other's genre is that they're going to teach each other how they do certain things. So like she takes him on all of these kind of romantic dates of sorts. Like they're not always dinners and they're not always dates, but like it's kind of to show him the romance and the happily ever after situations. And he takes her on fact-finding missions. So like he has been writing this book, and so he has stopped it, or he's stuck with it, and is kind of taking a break to write said romance of a little bit. And so his book revolves around cults. And so like they go on a bunch of fact-finding interviews with people who have lost someone to a cult, or who have been in a cult, or like were in it but left, and like just like things like that. So you get lots of different people's perspectives. So that I found fascinating, because like not only do you get to see these two characters grow closer through all of this, but you get to see the behind the scenes of what's going on. So if anything about cults does not sit well with you, I would say trigger warnings for anything that revolves around that, because this one is specifically a suicide cult. So things, you don't see that part of it, but you do see the aftermath and stuff like that. So just kind of be wary of that. But I really adored this relationship. Again, harder hitting than I anticipated a romance to be. I mean, it's still a contemporary romance, but it's like, instead of being more contemporary or more romance, it's evenly split between contemporary and romance, which I find interesting, because usually you can categorize it as one or the other. But I really adored it, and it was so great. So I put that in for poll, because I put it on Instagram, but also I was looking through some of the other prompts, and I forgot that there are 5 non-reading prompts. So like, you know, participate in sprints, do things like that. And so there's one that says complete a personal goal, and I had been putting this off to read on the beach. So I counted that as completing a personal goal. So I completed this one, 5 stars. It was fantastic. And then I had plans to pick up The Holiday, and instead I decided to pick up, because I didn't want to read 2 books about summer vacations at the same time, even though one was a romance and one was a thriller. I wanted something, because I was reading a physical book and I had an audiobook, as I usually do at the same time, and I didn't want them both to be somewhat related. So I ended up picking up A Dance with the Fae Prince, thinking I'll just read this until I'm done with Beach Read, and then I'll pick up The Holiday instead. And I didn't. I got obsessed and I finished this. I basically focused. I read the beach read in like a couple of days, and then this one I ended up reading over the course of like the rest of the week. Like from Monday on, I was dedicated to this book. And every time, I swear, I get into one of Elise Kova's books. Now granted, I've only read one beyond this one, which was the first in the series, which was Deal with an Elf King? Deal with an Elf King. I just get sucked in. Like, the first paragraph had me. Not even the first paragraph, the first chapter had my attention, and I wanted to keep reading. So this fulfills like 10,000 prompts. So we've got on a previous TBR, because I've had this, it was on February's TBR, I believe. And then it's also Indie or Self-Published, which is a specific prompt for my team, and then it's also a 2021 release. So I fulfilled 3 things with this prompt, which I'm very excited about, and it was on my list of books to read by the end of the year. So all the books in this series are a mashup of they're all set in the same world, so they're all companion novels, in the sense of like, the characters from the first book are briefly mentioned in this one, but like, you could go into this one without having read the first one. Like, the whole point of it is to have standalone happily ever after stories that just take place in this world. But they're also based on some sort of fairy tale story and a Greek myth. So the first book was based on Beauty and the Beast and Hades and Persephone, and this one is based on Cinderella and Psyche and Eros. And you really see those vibes in here, because we follow Katria, who is sworn that she's never going to fall in love because of like some of the traumatic things that has happened in her past. And like some of the stuff that her father has done for love. And so her mother died when she was super, super young, and so her father remarried, and her stepmother and her stepsister, she has 2, but the younger one actually really adores her. She's adorable. We like her a lot. But the older one is kind of a terrible person. But we see just basically a very, very abusive family dynamic, because the stepmother is like the worst thing ever, and she basically marries off our main character for money. Our main character has never even met her husband or her husband-to-be. They basically like sign a contract, and she gets married before she ever sees him. Even the stepmother's never seen him. She just wants her gone, and she wants money because they're struggling, because her father went away on a trip and hasn't come back and is presumed dead. And so because of that, there is no money, and so she's doing everything she can to keep up this very lavish lifestyle, and her next idea is to sell off her stepdaughter. And so we see Katria do said thing, and so she goes to this mansion and she meets kind of meets the guy, and she has very specific rules that she has to follow, and she can never actually look him in the eye. And then it's later found out that I feel like it's very obvious based on the cover and the title, but he's Fae. And she ends up interrupting a ritual, and instead of the magic going into him, the magic goes into her, and they have to go on this grand adventure. But I adored these two characters because their banter together, like just that situation where like they are going back and forth, is so sweet. There's a lot about trauma in this book, not necessarily like trauma from violence, although yes, we do have that a little bit with our main character because of the abusive family that she's grown up with. But just like trauma from, like specifically for her main character, it's what is love? Because to her, love is not something that you want because it makes you do stupid things and you can't count on it. And so because of that, she's thought her entire life that like her stepmother has done these things out of love, and her father fell for her out of love, and so she doesn't trust love, and she's kind of like grappling with that. And so because of that, she doesn't want anything to do with him, even though she's attracted to him. And he has this whole plan for himself, and he's got people after him, but he keeps falling for her anyway. And I love their relationship. This is definitely new adult. It's got those scenes in it, but they're so vague that like if you weren't paying attention, you would have no idea what was going on. But they do have those scenes. I would say the first one is more, I think they're both new adult, but the first one's more adult than this one. But I loved them. I loved their relationship. I could not put this story down. I just wanted to keep reading and reading and reading, and I just like get sucked in with these stories. I remember that happening with the first book too. So this is just something that she does. I adored this. I gave it 5 stars. I didn't mean to read it, but I'm very glad that I did, and it came with me to the beach, and it looks like it's been read, and I loved it so much. I'm not sure I loved it. I either love it a little bit more or equally to the first one. I haven't really decided, but it was great. Okay, it was great. With those 3, this is a look at kind of where we're at with the bingo board. There's no tic-tac-toes yet, but I've completed quite a few things, so I'm very happy about that. Just a couple of things, like there's a bunch of places where like I only need 2 things, and I'll complete a tic-tac-toe, and I'm excited about that. And so I've been keeping track in my like planner here, as well as I've got a points tracker for myself, but I don't remember how many I have, so that doesn't matter. But that's kind of where we're at with the week. I did technically start the holiday, but I read the first chapter, which is a whole like 4 pages. So I don't really have many opinions yet, but I'll talk more about that in next week's vlog. But I hope that you enjoyed this very B-roll heavy trip to the beach. I had a grand time. I loved every second of it, and I want to go back. Like, I don't want to be in the real world right now. Can we just go back to vacation? Like, that sounds great. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you would like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as fun other links, so don't forget to check all of that out. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!